meet monthly meeting of the Boulder Housing Advisory Board. Today is May 25th, 2022. I'm Michael Lucchese, the chair of HAB. I'm calling the meeting in order, starting with a roll call. Please announce yourself if you are present. Juliet Boone.
Hi.
Juliet. Philip Ogren.
Here. Hello.
Hi. Good to see you, Philip. Terry Pamos.
Yes, sir.
Jennifer Livovich. I believe Jennifer is absent. Julianne Ramsey. Okay, Julianne not here yet. Danny Teodoro. Okay, Danny, I just talked to him half an hour ago. I'm sure he'll be joining us, but I believe we have a quorum and can proceed. We have 4 agenda review. We'll be welcoming new planning board liaisons. We'll introduce them in a moment. Approving the minutes from the April meeting. We have a public participation period with open comment in about 5 minutes. And we do have, I think, at least 2 people on board for that. Item 6 is matters from the board. We'll have an overview of the affordable home ownership program from Eric Swanson, who manages that program for the city, as well as a review of the 2019 Boulder Affordable Homeowner Survey. We'll be considering a letter to council urging action on TDAP phase 2 in the planning reserve. That's something I drafted for your consideration this month. It's not a policy statement. It's more like a call to action. We'll be discussing our potential HAB retreat in July. I think you've all heard that city meetings will not be live by that time. Item 7, matters from staff. We'll be hearing about a proposal on the regional affordable housing implementation and more about the council study session coming up in October to discuss middle income ownership. Item 8, we'll be debriefing the meeting and doing a calendar check at about 8:50 and adjourning by 9. With that, I know we have our new planning board liaison, John Gerstle, aboard. Mark McIntyre, who's new to the planning board, has been named as the alternate. I suppose he'll be attending when John can't. And John, do you want to, we'll welcome you, first of all, and please say hi and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hello. Pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot and hopefully stimulating the interaction between planning board and housing advisory board. I understand that Juliet's husband is a colleague of mine on planning board anyway, so some of that communication may already be taking place. But
Well, he's actually my brother, John.
oh, is he your brother? Okay.
Yeah, he's not my husband.
Okay, well, somewhere in the family.
It's, it's whatever.
Okay.
I just learned that myself. Wow, you are a power family, the Boones are.
I shouldn't jump to conclusions.
That's right. Well, welcome, John. We're glad to have your perspective and glad to see you tonight. I believe you've all had a chance, item 4, I believe you all had a chance to see the minutes Tiffany sent out from April 27th, 2022. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Or I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
I believe we had a 4-0 approval vote on that. So noted. Moving on to public participation. I believe we have Lynn Siegel on the line, and you have 3 minutes to comment. Lynn, welcome.
Hi. Do you have the timer?
I don't. I think Tiffany has that.
I'll get the timer going. You can start, Lynn.
Yep.
Put it on one of the windows so I can see. Just one of the windows, please. I prefer not to see a big looming 3 in front of my eyes. I like to see the faces of the people I'm speaking to. Unfortunately, you can't see mine, but that's not my choice. So are there any public hearings?
Tonight, no.
This is the wrong format, Jay. I'm waiting. Just put it in one of the windows.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know how to do that.
Maybe you can assign it, assign it as being a participant.
I'll have to figure that out for the next.
Yeah, Lynn, if you don't want to look at it, I will just tell you when your time's up and give you a warning.
I can stop sharing and just give you a 10-second.
Yeah, but I like to prepare myself by seeing the image of that. I really do. I don't think it's much to ask.
I don't know how to do it. Sorry, Lynn.
Yeah,
I could hold up a timer to next to my face.
Okay.
there's an idea. That's why we got Philip on the board.
It's just so inconsistent between different boards, you know.
I don't know if you can read that or not. Is that backwards?
253, right. So what the heck are you folks doing about the missing middle? Because
Lynn, could you speak up a little? We're having a hard time here. At least I am having a hard time hearing you.
sorry,
Thank you.
can you hear now?
That's better.
Seriously, Juliet,
A little bit.
I'll turn my volume up, but that doesn't help probably. Don Altman, Michael Bosma, stop me if it gets faded or anything. This is a new computer, but you know, they make everything obsolescent these days. It's a MacBook Air. Don Altman, Michael Bosma, 55th Street. John knows all about this, but that was supposed to be missing middle. And that is a paradigm for the problem in Boulder. These developers are holding you up for ransom to say, we can't afford to do our thing unless we have 25 units instead of 14. And that makes them 800 feet. And that puts them into the non-middle category. We just can't afford to do it. Well, you know, I'm sure there's someone out there that will accept less. And when planning board just keeps on handing over another third story, a height restriction limit lifted, you know, a floodplain thing at the Millennium, you know, affordable housing and at Olive, you know, oh, sorry, our parking structures there, we had to use up the affordable housing with that. So we'll give it to you in lieu. There should be no more in lieu as of decades ago. No more in lieu. You know, we don't need more people commuting to Boulder and then congesting our town from the outlying community sprawl. That's not an objective here. If you can afford to live in Boulder, you can afford to, but stop driving the price up. You need to advise planning board not to give any subsidies. Stop already. Stop. It's so disheartening. You ought to go to some planning board meetings and watch this. It's just obscene. One thing after another. And the developers pleading that they just can't afford it, you know? Well, too bad, sorry, you know, go somewhere else, go do some development in New York City or somewhere. But in our town, we have restrictions. And I know it's gonna be expensive anyway, but guess what? It's more expensive with the product that you've got potentially with Don Altman and Michael Bosma on 55th Street. That's going to make it plenty worse if you offer him 14 units. Now, the planning board didn't approve it yet, so John, don't get upset, you know, but the fact that he even could suggest after up at 311, he's making $10,000 to $50,000 a month for over 100 guests there. This is like upper end resort community. And for every high end place you get all the support people that you need to support that high end place. And guess where they live? Outside of the city. We need the jobs, housing, balance. It's not, it's a huge imbalance. Why aren't you doing something? Instead, all you're fighting for is more and more housing, and it's more and more expensive. Even the mobile homes are on fixed foundations. You know, it's just not working. So why not try something that does? and that is stop paying the developers to build here. Let them,
Thanks, Lynn. Lynn, your 3 minutes is up.
let them suffer a little bit. 'Cause God, they're coming from all over. They know it's free in Boulder.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. The missing middle is very much on the agenda tonight, and you'll be hearing more about it. I believe we have another public commenter. Is Dan? Oh, first let me welcome Danny. He did join us. Danny Chair, our vice chair, and Kurt Penhaber of the City Department of Housing as well. Not a board member, but happy to have you here, Kurt. Dan, are you on for comment?
Yeah, sure. Can folks hear me now?
Yes.
Great. And I'm not sure. I just put in the chat channel. There was an article that was in the Colorado Daily today. I don't know if folks had a chance to look at that.
I've got it, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay. So I've spoken with council before, and the person who wrote this, his name is Adam Perry. Maybe some of you are familiar with him. He left affordable housing in Boulder to rent because that was a better option. His complaints overlap some with my complaints. I would not choose to be in this program if I had better education. His complaints was that it just got too expensive, the HOA fees, and it just wasn't a good program. This isn't true home ownership. What the city offers in the affordable program, the main beneficiary is the city of Boulder, not the actual people that use it. The city's building a giant housing portfolio that we don't actually own. The mortgage that I got, the market rate mortgage I got it's basically swallowed up. I'm now part of the city portfolio. When Adam said that he sold his house, the city made him make some changes, and he did not get very much appreciation at all. The problem with this is that when you get someone in here, I would desperately want to be out of this program. I do not like this program, but the problem is my mortgage that I put in 6 years ago can't buy me anything nearby Boulder. And so to avoid all these conflicts, the obvious solution is to give market rate appreciation. This is the fair way of doing it on the mortgage that the person put into the system. Otherwise, you end up in a system where people get dragged out, and there are going to be a few winners. There are going to be people that are recent graduates, and I read something that someone got $1 million house after they got into this affordable housing program. But by no means the affordable house help. If you look at the $300,000 house they bought 9 years ago, it just didn't make any sense that they had to buy $1 million house after that to escape the program. And so I guess I'm concerned that there's a program out there that has a lot of people that are extremely dissatisfied. It's very depressing to be in this program, and the city doesn't seem to listen to us. Adam mentioned that no one in city council listened to his concerns and followed up. We don't have representation. We're a small minority. There's a lot of discrimination. I've had a lot of problems in the program by my HOA, the city of Boulder. I noticed Kurt's on the line. I've had very serious disagreements with Kurt. Codes and standards aren't followed. There's nothing you could do. The city can abuse you. I went to the mediation, but it's run by Kurt's office. So what do? I got an unsatisfactory result. So you just get people in Boulder that are getting more and more, depressed and unhappy in this program. And it comes down to the design. So I don't really see any pluses in this affordable housing program. It kind of takes the worst of home ownership, all the liabilities and maintenance, and combines it with renting. And you have to deal with, these unstable rates of HOA fees. So that's what I wanted to contribute here tonight.
Well, thank you, Dan. It's partly because of comments like the one you just made, or your 3 minutes, that we scheduled an informational session. It's the next item on the agenda to review what's going on with where are we going? Where have we been? Where are we going with the affordable home ownership program? And it'll be interesting to see what kind of user satisfaction or dissatisfaction has come out of that, if we can draw such conclusions. So thank you again for your comments. We'll read that article. It's now been shared with the board. And I think we can move on to item 6, matters from the board. And we have an overview of the Affordable Homeownership Program from Eric Swanson, the Homeownership Program Manager. Again, this is a 10-minute presentation and there will be Q&A. So we'll turn it over to Eric. Thank you for being here.
Excellent. Thank you for inviting me. I will share my screen. One moment. Let's see. All right. Boy, you'd think after all these months I would have it down. All right. I assume someone will let me know if you can't hear me or see what's on the screen, and I will go forward. So yeah, thank you again so much for inviting me. So my name's Eric. I'm one of the homeownership program managers. There's 3 of us that work on this program. And what I was going to do tonight is just kind of give you an overview of the program. Jay Sugnett shared that it would be helpful to just kind of provide a little bit of education about what we do and get into a little more detail about what the city's homeownership program does. And I think that sometimes, or the way I approach this is to tell a little bit of a story about how one family might or one family went through this program and how it benefited them, at least with what is our most popular program, and that's our permanently affordable program. And so here's a story that I'll share with you. And this is actually based on a real family. I changed the name, but everything else is based on a real family. And so what we're doing is we're trying to help families like this. And this particular family, the Sharma family, they have 5 people in their family. It's 2 parents, 2 kids, and then a grandparent that all live together. And when they bought in the program, their annual income from 2 nursing assistance jobs was $54,000. Really hard to buy something in Boulder, even really hard to rent in Boulder at that kind of income. And they also had limited savings, so the down payment can be a challenge. But what they did need, they needed some stable housing, some place that they could afford into the future. And that's how they ended up coming to us, and they ended up buying a home in our permanently affordable program. Here's the home they bought. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 12,000 square foot condo. And they purchased it, so it's permanently affordable. So it's a below market rate price at $184,000. And that resulted in a payment of just over $15,000. And that ended up being 35% of their income. And that's kind of what that's kind of the sweet spot for us. 35% of someone's income is thought to be affordable. Then they can afford, if that's what they're paying for their housing, then they're able to afford the other things that they need in their life. They're not skimping on those things. And so I think I may have said this, these homes sell at below market rate prices. And so I would say that this home probably would appraise for $300,000. So it's definitely a lot lower than what the market rate price would be. So then the homes in this permanently affordable program, they all have a covenant attached to them. Or a deed restriction is sometimes referred to. And what that does is it limits who can buy. So people need to fit under certain income and asset and some other program requirements in order to buy these. The covenant also has stipulations about how the home can be used. It's designed to be owner occupied, not designed to be a rental property or an income generating property. And then there's, as I've said, there's limitations on the resale price. And basically in that covenant, there is a formula that the goal of that is to try and keep the home affordable into the future. And in brief, what that is the formula starts with the listing price or the price that someone paid for it. And then some appreciation is added every year. It's somewhere between 1% and 3.5%, and that's determined by some area economic indicators. So it doesn't necessarily follow the market, how market real estate appreciates. It's based on consumer price index and area median income. And that's really one of the ways that we are able to kind of maintain these and keep them affordable going into the future, while at the same time allowing owners to see a little bit of return on that investment. Now there is, as I said, there's 3 city staff people that primarily work on this program, and what we are doing is we're qualifying families. So people will apply to the program, we'll make sure they qualify, fit under the requirements. And then when the homes sell, we're working to make sure that they stay, or that all the rules and guidelines are followed, and that a new covenant's recorded with that to help protect that affordability going forward. Now back to the story, I'm going to segue into another one of our programs that sort of works very well with the permanently affordable program, and that's our solutions grant. And so this family, as we saw at the beginning, they had about I think $3,600 in savings that they could contribute, which wasn't enough to close the transaction, even on a minimal loan, a minimal down payment loan. It wasn't enough. And so this grant is available. The solution grant came in and provided the balance of what they needed to close the deal. Now, one of the nice features about these grants is that they aren't paid back. It's not a loan. It's money just to help someone close the transaction and get it done. However, that grant does reduce the price at resale. So they will have a slightly lower resale price when they sell, and that is sort of so we can keep that grant money invested in the home. And so not only does that buyer benefit from it, but future buyers will benefit from it in a slightly lower price. And then I'll kind of wrap up my story before talking about some of our other programs of this family. So they're able to move into this house and live there, and it gave them, kind of the room they needed. A 3-bedroom was a great help to them. Helps reduce their commutes to. They both worked in Boulder, and so their commutes into Boulder were reduced, which also has time implications, environmental implications, which are great. A really key feature of it is the stabilizing housing costs. So people who are able to go into a fixed rate mortgage really can help stabilize their housing costs, as opposed to seeing rent increase over time at probably a more accelerated rate than they would see when they have a fixed rate mortgage. Another sort of, there's benefits of people being able to kind of stay in a community, stay in one place, grow roots in that community, get to know their neighbors, and kind of the intangibles of that sort of benefit. And then that last one down there, homeownership as an investment. And while people are not seeing what market rate owners see in Boulder, they are seeing some return. And I ran some numbers and calculated that this family over 5 years would probably have about $37,000 in equity in their home. This is the money they've paid down on their mortgage, and also a bit of appreciation that they are earning over time.
Yeah, can I, oh, sorry, I'm not sure if you're done on this part.
I'm happy to take questions. Yeah, if we want to go
Actually,
through them, or
Dan,
Yeah.
Dan,
Yeah,
sorry, you're not, Dan, as a member of the public, you're not allowed to ask questions. So the board member.
I'm not allowed?
Correct.
Oh, come on. I mean, this whole thing needs a report. This is propaganda. Okay, go ahead.
I agree.
So if you guys keep interrupting, we're gonna have to remove you from the meeting.
Yeah, this is it's a presentation. So if we could just please let Eric continue with the presentation. We appreciate that.
Great, thank you. So of the overall inventory, the homeownership program represents about just a little bit over 20% and then there's also the whole rental side of affordable rentals that are in the Boulder. And so we represent about 20%, which is pretty substantial for a community this size to have that kind of footprint, which is pretty exciting. So let me talk about some of the additional programs that we have beyond the permanently affordable and shared appreciation grant. We have, the solutions grant. We have a shared appreciation loan program. And this is intended for people who are trying to buy a market rate house in Boulder. And what it is it's a second loan basically on the program, but it's deferred payment. So people don't make payments on it, but it's all due then in a lump sum at 15 years at the end, along with the share of the appreciation. And the idea behind this is that people will be able to have kind of more money that they are able to have at that closing, but not have the obligation of making those payments right away. And then hopefully over time their income is growing or they're building equity, and then they'll be able to pay off this loan through either savings or refinancing at some point in the future. But it helps them get into a market rate home today or before they might otherwise be able to. We also have a home repair program that's designed to help with health and safety repairs for low-income folks in Boulder. And we actually partner with the city of Longmont, who runs a very similar program, and they manage the repair side of things and setting up contractors to do that. And then we are providing low-interest loans to help pay those costs to people. And then the last program that I'll talk about here is our Housing Legacy Program. This is a newer program, and this is for people who, some people who want to donate their home to the affordable program after they die, to help benefit the program and create more affordable opportunities in Boulder. It's, like I say, it's a newer program. We've got a couple of homes so far, and we're always eager to hear of other people that might be interested in that. So I'm going to segue now into the owner satisfaction with the program. So in 2019, there was a survey done to kind of figure out what are owners feeling about this? How are they feeling about the program? Is it working for them? What's not working for them? And the survey, the full presentation on that survey was in the packet, I believe. We're not going to go through all of those slides, but I'll hit some of the highlights here. So of the people that responded to the survey, 57% were very satisfied, 34% were satisfied with their decision or with the home. Just under 90% were glad that they purchased, said they would do it again. And then 68% said that they'd improved their financial security since purchasing. So kind of the idea of helping to stabilize or helping to improve people's financial position through home ownership seemed to be realized, at least for a majority of people. And then people also said that they were planning to stay in their home for the next 5 or more years, which would kind of indicate that they were happy with how things were going and happy with where they were. Now, the survey did also reveal challenges, and these are some things that I'm sure you all have talked about or heard of before. About half the owners said that they did have some surprises as homeownership, and the 2 primary ones are listed here. HOA costs being higher than people expected, or sometimes there are special assessments that weren't planned for. And then maintenance and repair costs were higher than people expected. I think people just weren't kind of in the mindset maybe of planning for repairs and things like that, and so that took some adjustment, and people were, I guess that was something they were surprised about. And then there was some kind of open-ended questions that people were able to answer, and some of the common themes in that were the increasing HOA fees affecting the affordability. So as that HOA fee goes up, it's hard to find the home or see the home as being as affordable as it once was. And this is really not unique to the City of Boulder program. I think, as we hear from programs across the country, the HOA part is definitely a challenge to maintaining affordability. People also commented on the appreciation caps and saying that limited their ability to build equity in the home, because it's, limited to under 3.5%. People are not going to grow equity as quickly as they will in a market rate house, and so it makes them harder to build that, and then move on to something else. And then the last kind of common theme was program restrictions. So there are restrictions around credit that can be given for improvements and so on. And just as we monitor this, there are some steps and things that owners need to participate in and be part of, and that does take some time and effort on their part. So as I'm going to move on here and just talk about kind of a current focus of ours. So we've done a good amount of work focusing on lower to moderate incomes, and now we're trying to focus a little more on middle incomes. And some of the things that we're doing is our shared appreciation loan program that I talked about earlier. We recently expanded the income limits, so moved it up to 120% of the area median income people, so a greater number of people can access that program. And we also expanded the loan amount. We doubled it from $50,000 to $100,000 that people can take out. Also, our permanently affordable program, we do have approximately 15% of those homes are targeted towards this middle income group. And we also have a new initiative where we're trying to purchase market rate and kind of convert them to permanently affordable that is focused on a middle income category. And then the last thing is we are a participating jurisdiction in the Metro DPA program. This is a regional down payment program that helps people. People can get a loan for up to 5% of the purchase price. And the income limits on this are pretty generous. They go all the way up to $150,000. And the kind of nice, it says it's a forgivable loan. So after 3 years, if someone stays in the home 3 years, they end up not having to pay that back. So that's another tool for middle income earners. And I'm going to wrap up with what's working well and what's a challenge for us right now. So generally the homes are affordable. They are usually appraising for twice what they're selling for. So that long-term affordability seems to be working. We seem to have strong lender and agents, real estate agent support. People recognize the program and are willing to work with it and support it. We've got a permanently affordable covenant that has stood the test of time. I think that over, it's been sort of current iteration has been in place for about 15 years, and it has done a good job of kind of balancing the interests of what the city is trying to do with permanently affordable and providing opportunities for owners. And then there's a variety of homes spread throughout the city, which I think is great. And then so the challenges. So kind of a theme that you've heard a few times is that HOA is a challenge in threatening affordability. We do have a few things that we're trying to do around that. Last year, we started a program to help people who are affordable owners who are facing special assessments, help pay some of those. And then we are, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, we've got a program that if homes are kind of unaffordable, we have a mechanism where we can kind of open them up to a higher income group. So working on instilling that homeowner mindset, I think that, is maybe not exclusive to our program, but as most of our owners are moving from renting to owning. And so kind of that idea of that owning and maintaining is, they kind of go hand in hand. And then managing homeowner expectations around appreciation. It does not match the appreciation of a market rate home. And so helping people understand that as they move into this opportunity and are living within that. Serving middle income buyers, as I talked about, we're trying to spend some extra focus there. And I think the program complexity is something we're always looking at, trying to figure out ways to make it more streamlined and just more efficient. I think that was it. Yes. So I'm happy to take questions.
Well, thank you, Eric. Let's hear from board members first.
Yes, Danny, go ahead. Sorry. Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me? Okay. I just want to thank you, Eric, for taking the time. I have a couple of points I want to make, and then just really quickly, and then a little bit of a question for you, pointed on some of the things that we heard about with the critiques. And I think the 2 points that I want to make are I've dealt with these, the structure of affordable home ownership in communities throughout the state. And essentially, the first thing is the property tax valuations are reflective of the covenant that's on them. Is that not correct for Boulder too?
That's correct.
So they're not being assessed at the appraised value. They're being assessed at the restricted value. So
correct.
So that's one thing. So the property tax is commensurate with the restricted price, which is as much as you can do, really, right? Okay. The second thing, when you talked about the appreciation cap, it's a delicate balance that we always wrestle with. But the point of the appreciation cap, and I think what you said it here, is if you don't have some sort of appreciation cap, then the whole entire purpose of the program can get defeated pretty quickly as things appreciate. And given the significant investment that the city puts into these, we have to safeguard against that. Isn't that the approach?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
And so my last question is just regarding associations. So it's certainly a concern everywhere, but at least what I've seen in the past is there's a lot of governors that you can put on HOA fees and things like special assessments, so that it's really reflective of the reality that it's becoming increasingly costly to own a home because of the incredible costs, increase in costs that we've seen because of supply chain and everything. So if you have to put a new roof on, et cetera. And so I guess my question is, with most of these associations that we're dealing with, can you make a direct correlation between the dues and the special assessments and the necessary parts of home ownership? So in other words, as opposed to, say, a luxury association where they may have a lot of surplusage or wasteful line items in there. I mean, so are we trying to tailor the association so that we're dealing with the nuts and bolts that you need to for home ownership? I know it's like a 19-part question, but I think
that's a great question. So kind of the idea of are the folks in these permanently affordable homes that are in associations that are sort of doing the basic, the decent, the good, safe, and decent, not doing the pools and that sort of thing. That's kind of your question.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge because most of these homes are in communities that are a mix of homes, a mix of market rate and affordable. We have very few buildings or communities that are just 100% affordable, and so there is, and by design, like we want to have people kind of all mixed around, and so it is challenging. I think that sometimes the affordable owners and what the market rate owners want might not be on the same path. I think for the most part, though, I don't think we have I suppose there's a few communities that might have some more separation between that, but I think that most of them are probably fairly reasonable. I think the challenge is that sometimes at least what I've heard from owners is that sometimes the HOAs are not maybe managed as well as they could be. And it's hard because it's the owners that are volunteering to be involved in that and manage that. And so then people aren't thinking about the roof, and then all of a sudden it becomes an emergency. You know, and we, as we educate owners, we try to encourage them to get involved in their HOA and understand what to look at with their HOA, to sort of keep on top of that, and understand what's going on. So yeah, I don't have a great answer for the question, other than that.
Okay, thanks.
Are there questions from the board?
Yes, Terry?
Eric, thanks a lot, bud. That was really nice. And I think a job well done. Early on, years ago, there was some issues getting financing for these deed restricted units. I'm assuming that's worked itself out, but out of my own curiosity, is it like local banks that are lending money on them, or is it, you know, more conventional Fannie Freddie loans that are lending money on these?
Yeah, great question. So financing generally isn't an issue for us, and most of the loans are being underrated by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. They are, you know, they're being sold on to those underwriters. We're fortunate in that we have a lending community that kind of understands the program, and we've been working with for many years, and so they're able to get the loans through. And on occasion, we'll have, and it's not just the affordables that face this, but sometimes we have what's a community that's called non-warrantable. So like maybe there's a lawsuit pending, or there's a certain mix of commercial and real estate and home ownership, and it makes it harder to get those loans underwritten. And there's a lot of local loans that they call them a portfolio loan that the lender will do and just keep it in-house. They won't sell it on. So yeah,
and it's no longer an issue, and that's great to know. You know, if I want to make a comment, then ask a question. I think that, well, question. You said that in the story you told that the market value of that 1,200 square foot unit was about $300,000-$400,000.
Yeah, 300.
I bet it's more than that, but 300, you don't buy much in Boulder for 300. But the affordable, the deed restricted price is about 180. So even under your estimation, which I think your market value, we're talking about a 50% less cost than market rate. Is that what you see typically? Or is it
I would say, and that's anecdotal. I don't have a lot of hard facts on that, but from time to time I will see an appraisal, and I would say, yeah, about half the price.
Yeah. Here's my comment. It's kind of a stepping stone, right? And I think that's what it was intended to be. It's in between market rate owning and renting. You get some appreciation. You get to control your monthly cost, HOA side, which, you know, that's a whole different discussion. Am I correct in saying you still get to deduct your taxes and your interest payments on your, you know, in your income? You can deduct those for your taxes, right? Just like market rate. So you get those back. You get some appreciation. You pay down some principal, so you're building equity. Yes, you're not building it at the typical Boulder rate, but you are building some, whereas opposed to renting, you don't build any, and et cetera, et cetera. So those were my comments, which I think is all very good. It's all what the program was intended to do, and it's doing it, and it's good. Here's my question, and I'm going to try to make it not an issue, but a question. The program was intended to have people who make a certain amount of money or have a certain amount of savings living in these homes. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you only have to qualify once to buy, right? So if you're at a certain point in your life that you don't have the not enough savings or not enough income, and you qualify and you buy an affordable unit in Boulder, whatever it is, townhome, doesn't matter, the affordable unit in Boulder. From then until what, you die or the end of time, you can live there, and your economic situation isn't taken into consideration again. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So after someone closes, we never look at the income again. And I think the idea is we don't want to kick people out of their homes like we're trying to.
Of course not.
Yeah.
No, nobody's saying that. But people's economic conditions over the course of years and years can change. And nobody's saying, you know, to kick anybody out. That's not what I'm implying at all. But I just think for me, that's a flaw. I don't know the answer necessarily, but that's a flaw in the system, because if at closing date you qualify and a year later your life changes, something happens, better job, inheritance, who knows, something goes on, you still get to live in that deed restricted affordable housing unit for 30 years or 50 years, however long you want to live there, even though economically you don't qualify again. I think that's one of the things I like about the rental side. Every year you have to qualify, and that ensures that the right people are living there, or the people that should be living there are living there. And on the for purchase side, that's just no safeguard day after closing. To me, that's an issue. I don't have a great solution, but that's my comment.
Terry, can I
Thank you.
that a little bit, Terry? I mean, that's a great observation. But I think what we found is that the typical tenure of someone who purchases a home is around 9 years. So people typically do move on.
Good.
I mean, theoretically, yes, that could happen, but I mean, you could look at the survey and see how many people have been in there for 30 years, but it's, you know, it's relatively small.
Around for 30 years, but I know what you're saying. No, that's good to know. That's good information. I did not know that. So you're saying the typical ownership in an affordable deed restricted unit is about 9 years on blended average? That's good to know. Thank you.
Other questions from board members?
It looks like Phil, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I didn't know if Danny had something he wanted to follow up on first.
Oh,
Go for it. But you're muted.
I just wanted to note, like, as far as the Freddie and Fanny problems with the loans, what they basically did with everybody is Freddie and Fanny, you have to subsume the deed restriction to Freddie and Fanny. However, you have the right to redeem if there's a default on the loan, or even redeem if there's if it goes forward to foreclosure. And so you protect your investment that way. So that's how you balance the Freddie and Fanny thing. And so most still are Freddie and Fanny, but that's the way it's worked out everywhere, and it's worked out perfectly fine, because if you have that, you know, there's enough of an asset for the entity to protect if they have to. So
it's good.
So thank you, Eric, for your presentation. I I have a lot of natural skepticisms of this program, and I also don't feel like I'm super knowledgeable about it. So I want to avoid ranting too much and exposing my ignorance, but I do want to ask some questions about it. One of the things that seems strange to me is you ask somebody who doesn't have a lot of financial resources to place a bet, so to speak, on this house. And normally in a normal market, you can win wildly, you can lose wildly, because you're putting 5% down, or even if you put 20% down, you know, that 20% could be swallowed by a depression, or you know, multiplied by appreciation. And so it seems to me that one of the things that this program is predicated on is that housing prices always go up, and which is what we've seen for decades. And I think the reason prices keep going up is because we have a market that's distorted, that constrains supply when there's lots of demand, and we keep doing things that increase demand, like down payment assistance programs, for example. And I just wonder, like, you know, if we had a healthy housing market where there was lots of options at lots of different price points, what would happen to somebody if someone's house price went down in this program? I mean, it seems like that would be a bitter pill to swallow, but maybe that's not even an issue because of the landscape that we find ourselves in.
yeah. I mean, it is a possibility that someone's house could go down in value if the whole Boulder market goes down. I think, like, we haven't seen that. Like, we've only kind of seen increasing demand. It's not to say that couldn't happen in the future. But there's always a line of buyers when one of these homes comes up for sale, and so people are always getting that maximum price because people are willing to pay that. So yeah, I mean, it is a possibility, it's a risk.
So
And I think
it seems like a reasonable approach in this very unhealthy landscape of the current housing market. In a healthy housing market, I think this approach could be really disastrous for families because the housing prices ought to go up and down based on their value and based on supply and demand. So anyways, I just wanted to point this out that to me, it doesn't seem like a solution for the ages. It seems like kind of something that works now and the mess that we're in.
Phil, just a little bit more context that might be helpful. So keep in mind, the value of the homes is not based on the real estate market. I think I tried to make that point. It's really based on the cost of living. So the consumer price index and those changes and area median income, those changes over years. And also keep in mind that the delta, like Eric was talking about, the affordable prices are half or even a third of the market. So the market would really have to tank to, I think, even come close to impacting it. So I'm not sure it's really going to be a risk, or at least I'm having a hard time foreseeing that scenario, even if we did have a really healthy.
Yeah, that's an excellent point about the initial price. So I didn't have that quite sorted out in my head. Thank you for clarifying that. So one of the things I wanted to just respond to, kind of like with the data science hat on, this isn't very sophisticated anyways, but very satisfied plus somewhat satisfied came out to 91%. That seems like you're knocking it out of the park. When you multiply that by the response rate of 53%, that means at least 48% like the program. And I know you can't really say, what about the other 52%? I wonder if Dan Glazer filled out the survey, or I wonder if there's some self-selecting bias in terms of people who like the program to fill out the survey. I know for myself personally, I tend to not fill out surveys for people I'm frustrated with. So it would be interesting to know, and I don't know how you do this without people getting 100% returns,
Mhm.
but maybe you could sample somehow the people who didn't fill out that survey and get some sense of what your actual approval rating is, because 48% to 91% is a very large range there. And if you have something that's like on the balance that's closer to 60 or 70%, that might be good for a presidential candidate. But for like a home ownership program, if you have 30 to 40% disapproval of that, that's like a lot of people who are taking on a lot of stress. So I just wanted to point that out as well. And feel free to comment if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
ahead.
I think it's the challenge of any survey is how do you get a full response rate. I would say that I feel like people are not bashful of sharing when they are not happy with what we're doing or when they think things need to be changed.
Yeah, and I noticed that there were lots of extensive comments in the packet, and those are interesting to read through. Michael, were you about to interrupt me? Or
No, I thought you were done, but I don't have anything that important to say, so keep going.
okay, I have one more comment, and that is based on what I've understood about this program. There's always way more applicants than the number of houses that are available, and so it's interesting to know that it's a solution that's not satisfying the people that would really like to benefit from it. I would be curious to know what they think about the program. What's their favorability rating of this solution? And also, one reason this would be interesting is because there's a section in the packet about how have people fared that have participated in the program? You know, what's been their sort of financial metrics going forward? And it'd be interesting to compare that with people who applied for the program but didn't get in, and see if it's, you know, because people can fare better because the economy's is doing well. Maybe you could take a random sample of people in Boulder and you would find that they're faring better. So I don't know. I don't know how you control for that. It's very difficult.
But it would be
like
it would be interesting. Yeah, that
But
I
it's a-
agree. That would be interesting.
But
to
it's a
know.
worthwhile thought exercise, even
Mhm.
if it's impossible to sort of do the data science on it. I think that's all I've got for now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Any other board member questions or comments?
It looks like John.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a very quick question that's related to issues that come up before planning board on quite frequently. And that is when planning board is dealing with some new proposal, I would say it's almost universally that we are being proposed to have affordable rental housing rather than for sale housing. Yeah. And I wondered if you could explain why that is to that degree, because when planning board inquires, there's never a clear answer.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a clear answer. Jay, do you have thoughts on that? You work on kind of more sides than I do.
So John, are you talking specifically about when a developer proposes affordable housing or market rate or a mix?
No, I'm talking about the affordable section of what a developer is obliged to propose.
Okay, yeah, so
with mostly market rate projects, but you know, they have the obligation to provide a proportion of affordable housing as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great question. That's something we're struggling with, and I'll talk about this later in the meeting. So we'll be going to council to talk about middle income housing in October. But really the big issue is that they can make a lot more money by proposing rental units at 60% AMI, because 60% AMI is really close to market, right? So they're going to basically barely take a hit on rents that they're going to get every month. Whereas if they tried to provide an affordable unit, the amount of subsidy that would be required is—
You mean affordable for sale?
Yeah, sorry, affordable for sale, right? Because the gap between what they could sell that for on our pricing sheets and what they could get from the market is just, the gap keeps growing every year.
I see. And so it's not so much that Boulder Housing Partners is pushing rental over for sales. It's just that the developers themselves prefer that.
Well, Boulder Housing Partners focuses specifically on rentals. That's their mission. Their mission is not to provide ownership units. We've been trying to push them in that direction, but their board has been pretty reluctant to go there. But that's why, you know, a lot of where you'll see the affordable ownership units, right, are in annexations,
right?
Things where we have more leverage, basically. But yeah, I mean, go ahead, Terry.
John, the other thing is that there's, on the rental side, there's just a lot more money available in different financing tools and things of that nature that allow for the rental product to be more practical or more feasible. Offsite, cash in lieu, all these things that have been happening. You know, every time you pay a cash in lieu, there's a bucket of money there that can go into it. It's the densities usually in their rental products allow for it. It's there's a lot of reasons why the rental product is more prevalent than the for sale product. Most of it has to do with financing and the money that you can get to do it from a rental perspective. But anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about it later in the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you. That's very informative.
Yeah, I'm not sure who this question is directed to, but I wonder how much of the issues around construction defects and condo construction, which has just plummeted in the last 15 years, has limited developer interest in pursuing that kind of product. I mean, that's a statewide issue.
And I can give you my answer for what it's worth. I mean, you can look at other states. I mean, so most of my experience is in Oregon. Same things happening there, and they don't have the construction defects laws that Colorado does. But I think it's hard to deny that the construction defects does not have an impact. I think the question I would have is how much of an impact.
Right.
Really, like Terry was saying, like I was saying, it's really the cost, and the pro forma just looks so much better with rental because you're getting well, in perpetuity, whereas with an ownership unit, you're going to sell it, and that's your profit margin right there.
Well, it's profit loss, but
Yeah. Well, I just want to add that going back to Eric and the survey, I mean, I'm not a professional surveyor, but I was pretty impressed by that presentation. That I've done some surveying, and 48% actually seems like a very high response rate. And in my limited experiences, it seems like the people who are dissatisfied are actually more likely to respond. So I think you raised some really good points about that analysis, but I wouldn't assume that a lot of dissatisfied people wouldn't bother to respond, because it seems like they'd be more motivated to respond.
And I would just add too, I mean, so we did this survey, a very similar survey. I can't remember exactly when, I have to go back, 2011, I think. So for me, what's interesting is to observe those trends over time. So we'll do it again, in another 5, 6, or 7 years, and try to keep it as close as possible to what it was. I mean, the real reason we did that survey when we did, though, we were hearing from a lot of affordable owners, but also all owners throughout the city that live in HOAs. The HOAs are huge. And it's not unique, like Eric was saying, it's not unique to Boulder, it's not unique to Colorado.
Right.
Not unique to affordable home. Anyone who lives in an HOA is experiencing this problem. And so I think my sense is there has been more attention at the state level to try to address HOAs and try to rein them in some way, but it's just really tricky because it's a contract between the association and that homeowner. So it's just one of those really wicked problems.
I do wonder about the future potential to do more deed restricted for sale, just as a practical matter with high construction costs. The margin of between the subsidy and the market value, or rather the value of a new home, given what it costs to construct that home, is got to be growing pretty significantly right now. People are using $400, $500 a square foot for basic construction these days. So I like, it's not a perfect program. I think it's like anything with social engineering. It's going to have flaws and things that fall through the cracks, but I wish I could be more optimistic about it making a comeback and providing more housing, but that's something we're going to discuss later in this meeting. So any other questions for Eric or comments about this topic in general?
thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Like I said before, I'm learning, and so I always like the guest speakers who teach me something, and I'm gonna keep reading about this.
Good. Well, we appreciate tough questions instead of head nodding as well. So keep at it, board.
Excellent. Thank you for inviting me.
Eric.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to item B. Your chair several weeks ago drafted a recommendation to council. It's really kind of a call to action. It's not so much of a policy statement. I would love to hear some conversation about, I think you've had a chance to review it. It is something that came out of our last meeting as a potential action step. So I feel like we have some consensus. We did want to do something on these issues. So this is specifically urging council action on HAB phase 2 and the reserve. At least get the ball rolling on what could be very long processes that somewhere down the road could result in some good affordable housing outcomes, but it won't if they won't get started. So if you want to review that statement, we can do that, or we can just move into discussion and then talk about the wisdom of doing something with this or thinking about it more. So yeah, you read it. Why don't you start with some comments? Either Denny is left or he's muted. Oh, he's here. You're muted, Denny.
I couldn't hear anything here for a second. So
Yeah.
I was trying to put it on my, can you say that again, Michael?
Oh, yeah. I just wonder if you'd like to comment on the HAB recommendation that I drafted regarding council moving ahead on at least getting the process started on planning reserve and transit village area plan too.
Yeah, I thought it did a good job just reflecting what we talked about before and just kind of gently pushing that forward and giving some sort of rationale as to why we're addressing that with them now without going into too much detail or too deeply. So it worked for me. I thought the language was good, but.
Can I interrupt you guys real quick?
Sure.
Did the rest of the board get this? Because I don't remember seeing it.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Whoa. Okay.
Document written.
I apologize. Okay. I thought the rest of the board had gotten it. I would prefer to table it until next month then, rather than having you have to do it on the fly. And we'll make sure you get a copy as soon as possible. That sound reasonable, Danny?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. In that case, again, I apologize. We'll go on to the next agenda item. This is, we are due for an annual retreat. I think it's probably not too likely this will be an in-person retreat, but we can have a conversation about when and how we'd like to do this. Last year, review, especially for new members, we had a good facilitator. I do feel like we had a productive retreat and it informed our work plan. It helped us focus on this missing middle issue that we've been talking about so much. It's so important. So I would be happy to do that. Remind me, Jay, would that be the July meeting or is it separate from July meeting?
Typically it's in lieu of an existing meeting, but it doesn't apply too. Typically it's been in the spring, early summer. I would just say another option is if you want to wait, if we do end up going back in person, is another option.
Okay. Thoughts from the board members?
I think just to kind of reflect what we talked about at the chairs meeting is that if this is in person, maybe we wouldn't necessarily need a facilitator because we could all just kind of have a sit down face to face and stuff like that. I think if it's electronic or in the ether, maybe a facilitator makes sense. So what are we looking at, Jade? I'm asking you, but do you have any idea when we might be going back towards in person?
No idea. All on the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think Philip had his hand up.
Yeah, and
I haven't been to a HAB retreat before. Is there is it all business or is there some provision for getting to know each other activity type stuff?
I'd say last year was more business, and then we did we canceled our December meeting and did a happy hour, which got a little bit messed up with the weather. So I wouldn't say some people got to meet in person, which was really nice. but it wasn't the entire board, and there was no business discussed with that. Really just a lot of productive bitching, but not related to HAB.
Is that the rule? Like, because we can't really have a happy hour unless it's a meeting. I mean,
the question.
Michael froze.
oh, okay. I was looking around to see if anyone else was moving.
So
Yeah.
I would just say, the retreat over the years, some of them have been more heavily, getting to know each other, icebreakers, learning how to function better as a group. So yeah, there's definitely opportunity for that. But in terms of your sort of happy hour question, I mean, the board has tossed around the ideas over the years of, adjourning early and meeting somewhere downtown for a social occasion. Not everybody's going to want to do that. But that opportunity has presented itself in the past.
Everyone like to come to downtown Buena Vista, I'm here. So given the council's decision to delay in-person meetings, are we even able to do that if we wanted to have an in-person retreat? That's a question for Jay, sorry.
No, I would say if you're going to have a formal retreat, no, it can't be in person.
What about happy hour?
You guys can have any happy hour you want. Just don't call it a meeting.
So we gotta go, it's just whatever, the same process that we had in December.
Yeah, and you're not conducting business is the other piece.
Right, but a retreat.
Danny knows all the rules, so he'll keep you safe.
Well, I think a retreat is business, but do we have a happy hour, pretend that it's not a retreat and have a retreat? Probably a bad thing to say while being recorded.
Yeah, I think one of you could organize.
Going to jail now.
You could start a social committee. We still have a couple subcommittees.
Well, a summer gathering outdoors would certainly be a great thing to do. And June or July would probably work, certainly work for me anyway. Let's just go around the horn and, get some feedback on, I know some of you haven't been to retreats yet, but if you'd rather do this sooner or wait until we can officially do an in-person retreat. Love to hear from everybody on that.
Go ahead, Terry.
I vote for anything that's in person and outside preference, whatever you want to call it, however you want to organize it. That's my preference.
I second that.
Juliet, how you feeling about that?
Yeah, in person outdoors is my vibe.
Okay, Philip?
That sounds great.
Okay, well, it's summer. I think we should do it in June or July.
To clarify, Michael, you're talking about a happy hour, not a meeting.
Well,
or are you talking about a HAB meeting outdoors, a HAB retreat outside in person?
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding Jay's suggestion, and I want to go on the record saying so I want to do something illegal, but have our meeting and then meet for a happy hour sound like a really cool idea. And have a short agenda to make sure we didn't get to the happy hour too late.
Well, I think what Jay's saying, if we had a formal meeting, we can't do it in person, right, Jay?
Not in the immediate future. So I think probably the earliest that we would be able to do that is August, and more likely September would be my guess, unless the numbers start trending in the opposite direction, which maybe.
So I think maybe we just punt on the retreat.
Right.
Let's give the retreat the course of the summer to see how things transpire, would be my suggestion. And then maybe we talk about doing the happy hour. But I just think from every board of representative or worked on or whatever, you know, like having a retreat in person is the fundamental idea of having a retreat, right? It's the
Right, right.
Absolutely.
so just to have another Zoom, and you know, we did it last year, it worked, but that was kind of, you know, unique circumstances. I think we could be patient and see how things transpire in August or September. That would be my suggestion. In the meantime, I'm always open at happy hour or
Okay.
beer in front of 7-Eleven or
that.
whatever else it may be.
That's the right plan.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, we'll just go ahead and continue to have our regular HAB meetings on Zoom as we're restricted to that format. And we could say Danny and I could form a social committee. Danny knows of a great sour beer brew pub in East Boulder where we could meet and be outside, and that would be totally separate from the meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's do it in June. Okay, Danny, you and I are going to organize this and we'll invite everyone.
I'm in. Okay.
Cool. Okay, great. Let's go to item 7, matters from the staff. And I believe we'll hand this over to Jay and we'll hear about a couple of items. Regional affordable housing implementation.
I think we lost Michael anyway. So, all right. So 2 items. Yeah, like you said, the first is it's called I think everybody's heard of the Regional Housing Partnership. So that's an effort that the city of Boulder has participated in with all of the Boulder County jurisdictions as well as Boulder County and the Home Wanted campaign. Hopefully everybody's familiar with that. So one of the outcomes of that was all these different jurisdictions, Lafayette, Louisville, others have really embraced affordable housing as a sort of this regional issue, right? So they have started to adopt their own inclusionary housing programs. But the challenge is they're very, don't have extensive staff, so they don't have a lot of experience. So what the city of Boulder is proposing, and our department in particular, is to help them administer their inventory. So it would be both rental homes and also ownership homes. So basically they would contract with the city and we would administer basically just like the whole program, just as Eric described it. So it wouldn't matter if the home was in Boulder or if the home was in Louisville. They would go through the same exact process. And the same thing with rental compliance. So rental compliance, it's a pretty significant issue. So anytime you're talking about getting federal funds, particularly through housing and urban development, lots of strings attached. You have to make sure you document everything extremely well, or you jeopardize future funding. So basically, I just wanted to give this group a heads up. We gave council a heads up. The county will vote very soon, I think, to allocate funding to start up this program. It'll be about $1.7 million. And then we'll use that to basically get some intergovernmental agreements in place and then help get this program up and running, hopefully by early 2023. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Any questions before I move to the second one? So the second one has to do with, oh, right. What? I couldn't remember. October 27th. So we remember from the city council retreat, basically council said, we have 10 priorities, 7 of them relate to housing. Staff get all these done. Staff said, we don't have capacity to do that. So we told them, we'll come back in the fall to talk more about their initiatives and how they fit into the city's work program. I am happy to say that we have been able to hire more staff at Housing and Human Services. Planning and Development Services is a different story. But at least Housing and Human Services will be able to go to council in October 27th to talk about middle income housing. 2 things specifically, the down payment pilot, remember that ballot initiative to provide a down payment assistance to middle income households. And then also what I was talking about earlier in response to John's question was, how do we make changes to our existing inclusionary housing program to encourage more ownership units and also to encourage more middle income, recognizing all the challenges that are associated with that. So that study session is October 27th. Hopefully we will have been able to do some work and at least lay out for council some key questions of and issues for them to consider. We'll preview it with this group before we go to council on those two different projects. And then there's also a study session scheduled for September. I can't remember exactly when, but when I have that, I'll pass it along. Planning and Development Services is also going to council for a study session to talk about ADUs and other the other housing initiatives that they would lead, but Housing and Human Services would also participate in. So just a quick update. I just want to let you know that where we are and sort of that progression, and happy to answer any questions about that. Did what I say make sense? Okay. Anyone? You're just so excited, I can tell. I like it.
Sorry, I was trying to say something and I was muted. Related to staffing, I was delighted to hear that the city has hired a planning director and would like to request that that new director maybe attend a hand meeting and maybe tell us where they're coming from on housing. We could have some conversation with Brad.
Yeah, and the other great news is the department also hired a new comprehensive planning manager.
Right.
Christopher Johnson, something like that. Anyway, he actually has a housing background, so we could invite him as well, and I'm sure you'll interact with him as well.
Great.
You mentioned we would be contracting with some of the neighboring communities to help facilitate affordable housing process. Does that mean they're going to pay us to do it? Is that the idea?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great deal for them because otherwise they have to hire staff to do it, and they don't have that very much inventory. So they would have lots of staff sort of twiddling their thumbs, and they don't have the experience, right? So we have 20 years worth of policies. Our covenant has been tweaked countless times, all in a very strong place. So ideally, and it also adds consistency across the region, which is another great benefit, I think.
Sounds great.
Yeah, we're excited.
So on item 2J, I'm going to rewind this a little bit to the retreat discussion away. Preparing for some recommendations to deliver to council before October 27th is really important. And we have kind of a specific charge related to those priority items identified at their retreat. I wonder if that's something we should devote a large part of our very next or a soon future meeting to, or is that something that actually we want to hash out at a retreat?
Danny has his hand up.
Okay, Danny?
I always lose where the prompt is on the chat thing. So
You can just raise your actual hand. There you go. That's good.
I think maybe we should, we're going to come back and revisit what you had drafted, Michael, too. So maybe we should try to push this up forward, especially since we don't know when we're going to do the retreat itself. And this could be a good discussion item in a lot of ways, in and of itself, I think. But that's just my
Yeah. I guess that was my roundabout way of saying that if we did the retreat before proposing some action to council at their study session, that could be, a target.
Yeah.
Other comments and questions on matters from staff? Okay, item 8, debrief the meeting. I think we got through everything on the agenda except for the letter from council that I didn't send everybody. So my fault on that one. Really enjoyed the presentation on for sale subsidized housing. I think we got where we needed to go otherwise in this meeting today. Any other thoughts on the meeting debrief?
Yeah, I have a thought. I suspect that it's Lynn. I don't want to. I kind of lost track of who's in the bottom right of my screen, but I find the whoever is changing their name over and over again is extremely distracting. Several times I kind of went off on a little tangent in my own brain. I'm really trying to pay attention, and but I found that the constant barrage of very short tweets in the name to be very distracting, and I'd appreciate it if we didn't allow that.
Yeah, that's kind of new, Philip, and I agree. Also,
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to give Paul and Lynn a little bit of the ability to vent because they're not allowed to participate like a normal board member. So I think it's really difficult. I think a lot of people have a difficult time with the online format. And so this is sort of a protest, but
Yeah.
that sort of happens. Because I assume it's happening in other boards as well. So I'll find out what they're doing about it.
Yeah, that was my next question. What are other boards doing?
Well, to the point of someone who just changed their name to I beg you listen, it's really distracting me from listening is really my point that I'm trying to make.
I agree. That's a very good point.
I agree.
John, you have some experience with this, it sounds like.
Yeah, I can just say that planning board, we say at the beginning of every meeting that the only use of that chat is to discuss technical issues with staff and not to have any substantive comments.
Mhm.
The board is expected to look at because the board doesn't look at that during the meeting. So we make that a very clear point at the beginning of every meeting, and it's aimed to the public.
Yeah, I believe we have done that in the past. So let's resume that and make that a practice.
I'll make sure that happens.
Thank you. I wasn't
Have
noticing
people,
all the changes, but I can see how it could be distracting.
We haven't had people basically joining our meetings very often, so it hasn't been a problem, but obviously we need to bring it back. But yeah. So
And I just note that sometimes it can feel imbalanced or unfair to people from the public, but our whole process, as with every local entity, is really based off of Robert's rules, which goes back somewhere in the neighborhood of like I don't know, 1,000 years or something. And it's just the only way to get stuff done in an orderly fashion. And what I will say for Dan, I think we heard some of the comments that Dan was making regarding his concerns like with HOAs. And I would say that I know for one, am very open to maybe having something where we could look into that with a little bit more detail in terms of what's going on with HOAs and stuff like that. Because, the big concern is when there's the disparity in income within an HOA, it can be very difficult for people who are on a restricted budget. But there are a lot of things that you can do about it. And I've actually been involved with quite a bit of that with affordable housing projects. And so I think it's a relevant issue. We appreciate the comment. There just wasn't a forum for it. And, certainly Eric was, here really trying to, provide as much information as possible. And I really appreciate what he did. And so just because we didn't talk about it now, it's certainly something that I think could be germane for a future meeting to kind of look into and see if there's something we can do to create a better solution, so to speak.
Right. Although if there had never been a COVID and these were live meetings, members of the public would get their 3 minutes and couldn't just blurt out comments during the meeting. So I think we're just applying that protocol to a Zoom meeting.
I agree with that part completely.
I have a request for the social subcommittee.
Yeah, are you joining?
If you want, well, I'm an attendee for sure, but don't do anything June 20th, next week, next month's weekly meeting, please. I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay.
Okay,
Deal.
duly noted. We'll find the best time for everybody. Don't worry about it.
That's also Juneteenth celebration, so it's good to be mindful of that as well.
Right, that's a good one. Actually, it's become a holiday for a lot of organizations. It's great. And we wouldn't do a happy hour on a holiday.
Michael, John has his hand up.
Okay, John, please.
Yeah, not to talk too much, but just to mention that with respect to the comments in the chat, another consideration is that those comments are not part of the record of the meeting, and therefore it's probably inappropriate to consider them in the meeting itself. The other thing I just wanted to mention is to make sure that, and Jay is probably familiar with the rules, but I know in planning board, we got to be very careful whenever more than two of the members get together, even as in a social occasion, not to violate the sunshine laws about, in informal meetings and so on. So that may be something you want to consider in your comments about the social scene and the
Right.
and the retreat. I'm
thank
sure
you, John.
Jay will give you guidance on that.
Yeah, we did have a purely social gathering for the holidays with several board members. I think it was more than 3. And we did consider that, and we did not deal with any HAB business at that meeting. We just talked about what's going to be under the tree and where you're going and how much you hate fruitcake and all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And we painstakingly addressed it through the city attorney's office and everything. And
okay.
yeah, we
Not to
stayed on
make
the side of the Open Meetings Act. So.
And John, these guys don't get quite the same scrutiny you do because they're not making quasi-judicial decisions. So
Yeah.
the ability to challenge them
Right.
based on ex parte contact.
Yeah, although we could start wearing robes, that would be fun.
Nobody has to listen to us.
Okay, I think we've covered everything we need to cover. Do I hear, can maybe entertain a motion to adjourn?
Michael, can we talk about next?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. What is the date for the next one?
The 4th Wednesday?
You're gonna make me do math now. Okay,
22nd, it's the 22nd.
Yeah, we just talked about it. It's Juneteenth, right?
I thought Juneteenth was the 20th.
Juneteenth
Oh,
is
it's
the
the 20th.
20th. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. I was afraid it was
Yeah.
going to conflict. Yeah, so what I have in the work plan that I sent out was to talk about ADUs. So I just wanted to make sure that was still of interest to the board. So what I was thinking is just as a prep for your conversation about things that you might want to recommend to council to focus on, I can give you a history of what we did back in 2018 when we last updated the program. I can also just give you more of a history of the program and how the regulations have evolved over the years. I don't have any sort of new up-to-date information yet, but at least I can get you up to 2018 and beyond.
I don't want to try to dictate the agenda just because my schedule, I'm not going to make next month's meeting, and ADUs are my favorite thing. So is there a way to weigh in via email or something? And if I can't make the meeting, is that an option?
Absolutely. I mean, we could also do it in July and do something else in June.
I propose that we do something informational on ADUs in June and then have a discussion on the potential action step. This is an area where council is looking for some more technical advice, I believe. And that could be something we could weigh in on the July meeting once we've fully informed ourselves.
Good idea.
Anything else of interest from the board that you'd like to hear about?
Yeah, I wrote this recommendation we need to go over, but I'll send it to everybody first.
Mhm. Okay. That's all I have.
Any other well, could we possibly get the planning director next month to chat for 20 minutes?
I'll ask.
Okay.
Or the comprehensive planning manager, if the planning director isn't available.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think maybe separate sessions and separate months with those two would be a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely, I'm meeting with the comprehensive planning manager next week. Well, I'll suggest that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anything else we need to address this evening?
Good job.
Do I? Go ahead.
No, just good job. Good.
Oh, okay, thanks. Good job, board. And staff, thank you all. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanks.
Second,
From Lynn, thanks.
okay. Was that a second from a board member?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. See everyone next month. Thank you all for your work in support of the housing objectives of this board.
Good work, everybody. Safe.
Good night.
Have a good night.